Don't look now, but the NFL Draft is set to kick off only 10 days from now. With speculation and discussion only growing, anticipation for the big day is at an all-time high. Hello, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Charles Reinert alongside Mike Luttenberger and DJ Morrissey, and tonight we'll be doing our fourth installment in the Penn State Sports Night NFL Mock Draft Series. Mike, let's start with you. Where do you see the top prospects going on April 29th?
Thank you, Charles. Well, we all know the draft starts at 8 o'clock, but you really don't need to turn on your TV till probably 8:30 because you know Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are going number 1 and 2. The draft really starts when the 49ers are on the clock. And I have Mac Jones going, but I think it can be Mac Jones or Trey Lance. And the reason I think this is because the 49ers made that trade to go from 12 to 3, and they gave the Dolphins 3 first-round picks before Justin Fields' pro day. And they saw Lance's pro day, and they also saw Mac Jones at the Senior Bowl where he tore it up. So I think it's Mac Jones to the 49ers. Moving down, I have the Carolina Panthers taking an offensive tackle. They just traded for Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold didn't have any protection whatsoever with New York. So they have DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, CMC. They have the weapons. I think they build the O-line. Moving down all the way to 13, I think the Chargers do the same thing with Herbert. Herbert shown last year that he is a franchise quarterback, and they need to build around him too and keep him healthy. Moving down to 16, Caleb Farley. A lot of question marks with him. His draft stock is going down because he opted out last year. He was hurt the year before that, and he just got optional back surgery 2 weeks ago. But he is a lockdown corner. Opposing quarterbacks actually have a worse QBR throwing to him than spiking the ball into the ground. How is this possible? Because of interceptions. That's how locked down he was. At 19, 20, and 21, I have Washington, Chicago, and Indianapolis all taking offensive tackles. They really need it. Washington, all three of these teams really had solid defenses last year, and they need help on the offensive line. Quentin Nelson needs some help on the offensive line with their new addition, Carson Wentz, to keep him healthy and safe because he seems to be very fragile. And moving down the list to the New York Jets, they addressed wide receivers in free agency with Corey Davis. They addressed defensive end with Carl Lawson, running back. I think they have to go corner. I think hands down. And even if they get the 4th on the depth chart, I still think he is a great player. Going to 25, I have Rashawn Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota. I think that could really help Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars in that offense because they just lost Keenan Cole. The Packers. They drafted Aaron Rodgers' replacement last year after everyone said you need to get him help on the offense. Then Aaron Rodgers won an MVP after drafting his replacement. Went 13-3. That's great and all, but Aaron Rodgers wants a Super Bowl. I think they finally give him help with Kadarius Toney, and he is a very fast receiver that would really complement Devontae Adams' route running. Go down to 31 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they got to take an offensive tackle here. You saw them in the Super Bowl with both their offensive tackles out. Patrick Mahomes was looking like a headless chicken running around, and they just need an offensive tackle. The Buccaneers, they really don't have a lot of holes to fill. I think they get the defensive tackle from Christian Barmore and put him next to JPP and just keep improving that team.
So, yeah, I have the same top 3 as you. I actually don't think that there are going to be a lot of smoke screens this year with the QBs. I think it's going to be Lawrence, Wilson, and Mac Jones. I think it surprises a lot of people. But if he's Kyle Shanahan's guy, and that's who Shanahan believes in, then I think it makes sense to give up that draft capital, go up to 3, and make a move. Then at 4, I have Justin Fields going to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not a big Fields guy myself, but I think that Atlanta wants a hometown guy like that to maybe replace Matt Ryan, a really popular QB in the community and in the city. They've got some bills to pay from that awesome stadium down in Atlanta, and I think getting someone electric like Justin Fields in the stadium like that is going to be awesome for them. And then as we move on, we see Sewell, we see Chase, and I think honestly the biggest story of this first round is going to be how the guys that opted out of the 2020 season are affected. Guys like Slater, guys like Micah Parsons down here at 15. Are they going to slide, or are teams just going to take them for their talent? I think one thing to think about in that respect is, is that if these guys are going to their pro days and running faster than they did last year, they've clearly been putting in the work, and that's not something GMs have to really worry about. And then down at 8, I have Jalen Waddle going to the Carolina Panthers. So personally, I think Devontae Smith is a perennial Pro Bowler. Obviously won the Heisman Trophy, 4-year player at Alabama, and probably one of the most crisp route runners that we've ever seen coming out of college. But Jalen Waddle has so much raw talent, speed, physique, and I think that's what NFL GMs love. Every NFL coach thinks that they can take a guy and turn him into the next Hall of Famer. Maybe Waddle's that guy, but I see him having more of a Sammy Watkins-like career. Good player, playmaker, down the field threat, but not totally a perennial Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer like Devontae Smith might be.
I'm not totally sure that Waddle will go before Smith, but it's crazy to think that Devontae Smith won the Heisman as the best player in the country, and he might not have been the best wide receiver on his team.
Exactly. So then if we move forward at the back half of the first round, I think a guy like Rashad Bateman with the Bills, I think he could have a year kind of similar to Justin Jefferson last year with the Vikings, playing opposite Adam Thielen, with Bateman playing opposite a former Viking in Stephon Diggs. I think Josh Allen is a fantastic QB, and that offense was really humming, especially towards the end of last year. So I think even after opting out of the 2020 season, I think he can hop right in there, start making plays, start scoring touchdowns, and maybe even make a Pro Bowl in his first year. And then down at the end of the round, I have Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. He's just a big mauler going to Kansas City. And after that Super Bowl, I think it's pretty obvious that Patrick Mahomes needs to be protected at all costs, and I think they addressed that in the first round here.
While we're on the topic of trades, Mike, which teams could you see trying to move up on the board?
So don't be surprised if you see the 5 top QBs go in the top 10. I would even say maybe even the top 8. Teams overpay for quarterbacks. Teams are willing to move up and go get their guy. You have teams like Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Washington. I could all see moving up into the top 10, top 8 to go get one of these quarterbacks. Will we see the Patriots maybe move up? I don't know if Bill Belichick would ever be a guy to do that, but who knows what Belichick's going to do.
Yeah, New England's really interesting there at 15. So I have them taking Micah Parsons, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if they trade up, if Belichick likes his guy. Similar to what I was talking about with Shanahan and maybe what you saw with the Giants a few years ago with Daniel Jones. If you take your guy, if you like your guy, you take him no matter what in the first round, even if people are going to criticize you for taking him too high or maybe trading up in the Patriots case. Like you said with Pittsburgh and Washington, I think those are 2 teams that could easily trade up in the top 10 as well. Washington, Ryan Fitzpatrick, probably not the long-term answer at QB. And then with Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, this has got to be his last year. I mean, Ben is falling apart, and I don't really see where that franchise is going. So I think, sacrifice whatever draft picks you have in the mid-rounds and move up in the draft for sure.
Having a great draft day strategy is imperative to having a successful organization in the NFL, and one draft pick can completely turn a franchise around. Mike, which of your picks do you think is particularly a good fit?
I think a great fit is Penn Sewell going to the Cincinnati Bengals. The reason why, you saw Joe Burrow sacked a lot last year, and I always think you could throw it to an average receiver if you have a great O-line, but you can't throw it to a stud receiver if you don't have an O-line. I also think Patrick Surtain is a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have the 28th ranked defensive efficiency, and they got Dak coming back, Zeke, a stud receiving room in general. And they have an older O-line, but they're still a solid O-line. They have to address the defense. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, so I think Micah Parsons at 15, Penn State's own. I think if he does go to the New England Patriots, we talked about Belichick a lot already, he's been looking for the next Lawrence Taylor since the 80s. And Micah, I'm not going to call him Lawrence Taylor. I'm not going to go so far as to say that. But he has a similar style in the way he plays linebacker in a kind of fast, chaotic way. So I think if Bill Belichick can harness that and kind of put that together, the ceiling is unlimited for a guy like that. You talked about Kadarius Toney to Green Bay. I think Terrace Marshall Jr. is kind of the same thing. I think it could be a perfect fit playing off Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones got re-signed this season, and the Packers have been one game away from the Super Bowl for 2 straight years. So I think adding a piece like that on offense, an SEC wide receiver like both of us having, I think that's exactly what they need to do.
The most important day in the NFL is Super Bowl Sunday, but not far behind it is Draft Day. Teams have done their homework, interviewed players, and have watched their film, hoping that their next pick will bring them championships. It'll be an absolute blast to watch fans everywhere watching their favorite teams intently as they make their picks from Las Vegas in a little over a week. At least I know I'll be watching Howie Roseman very, very closely. That'll wrap it up here for us here at Penn State Sports Night. For Mike Luttenberger and DJ Morrissey, I'm Charles Reinert, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.